So we'll start on our short prayers here on page 5 and page 6. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sangye chodang soki chodam la, shangju baidu dagni kapsuchi, dagi jinsoki pe sonamgi, jola penshir sangye jupasho. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam gadam yampe semchen tam she dewa dang dewe godang dempar jorchi. Dugnao dang dunao gi gudang twelwa jorchi. Dugnao me pe dewa dang midra wa jorchi. Ne ring jagdang ni dang dwell way tang nam la ne pa jorchi. Okay, thank you. So last week we started talking about the 10 Bhumis. Now, does anybody have any questions about, how this lays out, where this is in terms of what we've been learning about Dharma practice and meditation and so on? So it's clear in everybody's mind that this really is the last part of purification that a bodhisattva is going through. And this may take, a lifetime. It may take several lifetimes. It may take, within a lifetime. But these are the stages in which the wisdom is purified and the activities are purified, all the emotions are purified, everything comes to completion here, and being able to make the leap, to reach the 10th bhumi, the 10th level, and then be able to reach over and cross over to become a Buddha. So not everybody wants to do that. Not every, we recognize that there is a need to remain, and that need can become an obstacle. If we get hung up on that, we start, the bodhisattva still has a last vestige of arrogance, of being able to say, oh, I need to do this because I need to be helping other beings and so on. And that can be a prideful emotion that needs to be purified. It also can be a wisdom obscuration, that we need to do this to be able, this is what makes us a Buddha. So we think that this is a part of wisdom, that we need to continue doing this for the sake of the wisdom to remain, and then somehow we flip over and become the Buddha. But the the reality of it is it all has to get released. It all has to get cut off. It all has to get, the cessation has to come in, which is a willful activity, something that we have to do for ourselves. No longer am I going to be bound by it. No longer am I going to have this identity of that. I don't need that wisdom to do that. So, Michael, I see you with a frown on your head. What does that mean?
No. I think that sort of ambition or aspiration, that seems to be like the most onerous attachment one could have. You know, the attachment to becoming something or becoming a being that is of ultimate benefit to all sentient beings, but wanting it, wanting what you get from it, wanting that next level, and being attached to being of assistance. Does that sound right?
Well, no, that is right. That's exactly the point, because we get blinded by that, but it's so subtle that it's easy to get seduced by that. So that's what So the Buddha is completely free of all these things. What the Buddha represents, what that means. And so we've got that within ourselves. And it's a matter of being able to let that go, and then being able to let go of the 3 dimensions, being let go of the 4 dimensions, whatever the word dimensions mean, to let go of all these, concepts, and to become completely conceptless. So as long as we're a bodhisattva, we're still in the realm of concepts. So, a lot of what Kempo has been teaching, with the way of the Bodhisattva, all has a direct, is a direct, has a direct display of what this is. So we were talking about it earlier. So it's very interesting to follow that, but not to get so attached to it, to be able to relax and to be able to enjoy the crossing over. There's a term here. Let me look at this, because this is very good. Just a moment. This is a very good book. It's called The Vajra's Speech, and we were talking about it by Tulku Orgen Rinpoche, and it's very, very good. So in here, he gives a bunch of definitions of things from the Nyingma perspective, which is very good. So here, there's a Tibetan word called trecho. Trecho is to simply acknowledge that one's innate essence is empty, to recognize that one's essence is empty. And then the other is sogo. Sogo is to recognize that the natural display is spontaneously present. So one is to recognize the emptiness of it, and the other one is that it is spontaneously present. And they're not our creation, that they are produced by practice. Both of these are produced by practice. So it's going along that bodhisattva path, going through the bhumis, that one comes to realize this. This is like the final thing. And there's no imagining of anything in either trecho or sogo. There's not anything in realizing the emptiness essence, and there's nothing to realize in the crossing over, that it just becomes spontaneous. It says, when cutting through with trecho, you can't directly cross with togyo. In other words, if you're holding on to the trecho, if you're holding on to the bodhisattva, you can't cross over. So they're very, very subtle. You know, it's been years since I've, you know, been, you know, thinking about these things and exposed to these things, and then thinking about, you know, how this operates and so on. And as long as I'm thinking about it, I'm holding on. You know, the point is to let it go. And in the meditation, there may be times in your meditation where you do let it go. And that's what we meditate for, is to have those glimpses when we can let it go. And then, as I've said before, those glimpses become visions, and then the visions become our reality. We become the embodiment of that. We become the Buddha.
Okay. Trögchöd means cut through, right, Lance?
Cutting through, yes. And the other one means crossing over.
So, yeah.
So if you're cutting through, there has to be an object. There has to be something that you're cutting through from, of, you know. But then the Sogyo is, you're just crossing over. There's nothing there. You're leaving it all behind, and there's no concept of behind or forward or anything like that. Okay, so I'm just explaining this as a means to give a perspective of how powerful and what these bhumis are these final 10 stages of purification that the Bodhisattva goes through. So we should embrace this. We should learn about this. We should read about this, and we should meditate about this so that we become more and more and more and more familiar with it. That's what we're trying to do. You know, we say, excuse me. We say it's difficult to understand our own mind is Buddha's mind. For us to come to grips with that, our mind is Buddha's mind. Buddha's mind was our mind, same mind, you know. But seeing this nature mind, once we see that, but then if we don't familiarize it with our practices, with our actions, with our activities and so on, if we don't become that in everything that we do, then we're just lost in the unwholesome worldly activities. All the stuff that we're distracted by, all the stuff that we enjoy doing and so on, all the rationalizations we make for the reasons that we do these things and so on. We say we're doing it for the sake of others, and we should be, but there is something about it that says we're doing it for ourselves too, isn't there? That's the relative. But the absolute is when it's all, you just let it all go. It all just becomes spontaneous. It becomes the rigpa. So we say that's the perfect mindfulness. So that mindfulness comes through practice. It doesn't come through our voluntary thoughts of making it manifest. It comes through our mindfulness of activities, of action. So, you know, and I've said this before, Ken Wilber said, look, we're all enlightened. It's easy to recognize that, but what's difficult is to be able to live an enlightened life. That's what's difficult.
Lance, does number 5 refer to a certain practice, very difficult to train in, or?
Yeah, well, let's get into this now. Let me build up to that. It's very difficult to train. This whole process is very difficult to train in.
Okay.
I mean, that's really the simple thing about it, you know.
It's already painful.
What's that?
It's already painful.
Well, if you want to make it painful, you know, at this point, I hope you're not being painful about it. You know, and there should be this enjoyment about it, you know, But it's that attachment to the enjoyment. See, that's the subtlety of this. That's the attraction, that we still want to do this, and we have our motivations for doing this and our rationalizations for doing this. Why we're not becoming a Buddha, why we're not letting completely go. So we talked last time about great joy and the 4 methods of gathering disciples. We talked about that. We talked about the different distinctive abandonments, the fear of not making a living, the fear of not getting praise, the fear of death, the fear of rebirth in a lower realm, and the stage fright in large gatherings. So now we come to stainless. So stainless, again, I think we went over a little bit of this, and that was that there's this realization that the meaning of the Dharma Dhatu, and think I must make a great effort to purify and accomplish everything, the meaning of the Supreme. So you have this realization that this is what you want to do. The abandonment are the appearances of the afflictive emotions are suppressed, but leaves the seeds which are thinner. Obscurations to knowledge are like cream rising to the top, yet to be removed. So the stainless is now we're seeing, those things that still need to be purified. We're seeing it through the eyes of being stainless. Because the essence of what we're trying to get to is stainless. The Buddha is stainless. The Bodhisattvas still can remain with attachments and aversions. So radiant, the next one is that arises from the paramita of patience or forbearance. I still have these things, but I'm still working to purify these things. These appearances of Dharma and absorption are clear, and the light of the Dharma radiates for others. Trains in the Dharma without regard for one's self-aggrandizement continues to refine the 3 causes of enlightenment. So the 3 causes of enlightenment we talked about before. And I'm having a moment here. All right, well, we'll have to, I'm not going to look for it. It's in here. So this radiance is like the sun shining. It's just shining. The luminous now, the luminosity of the sun is that now it's igniting, it's lighting up the darkness all around us. So the realization is the meaning of completely non-grasping and free from attachment to Dharma. So it's just opening things up. It's just lighting things up, and with absolutely no regard of that it's doing that. It is just luminous. It is just radiant. So now comes the very difficult to train in. And I know I'm going over this fast, but we went over it a little bit last week. You've got these texts. You need to read it. You need to meditate and study on this. I'm not going to be able to plug in and be able to illuminate you. This is stuff that you have to do yourself. So very difficult to train in. So that arises from the paramita of meditative concentration, equipoise, the balance, the equipoise of all these things. The Bodhisattvas strive to mature sentient beings and do not become emotionally involved when beings respond negatively. Training consists of avoiding the 10 faults, of which the 10 non-virtues are one. Purification through the causes of the 3 jewels and their relation to the constant examinations of wisdom and method. The realization is the meaning of the continuum of the undifferentiated nature and understand the 10 equanimities. So the 10 equanimities, these 10 balances. So the 10 equanimities are I think it's included in this outline that I gave you. So they're listed here. So I'm not going to go through those right this second, but I want to be able to say that this continuum of undifferentiated nature. So this continuum refers to the Tantra. So the sutra teachings are the platitudes of living a wholesome life, learning the difference between virtue and non-virtue, becoming a practitioner, becoming a yogin, becoming a bodhisattva. Now, as we move from being a yogi to being a bodhisattva to being a Buddha, now we have to realize this continuum. We have to really understand this continuum that we are part of. This is the Tantra. This is the Vajrayana. And this is the wisdom of the Buddha. Now, it's beyond our comprehension. So that's one of the things that we have to recognize, that the more that we try and understand what it is, we're holding on to that wisdom. And holding on to that wisdom is keeping us to be other than the Buddha, whatever level we are working at. So we have to let ourselves go. So the continuum is being able to surrender to that. So all this is conceptual stuff. We have to convey this to ourselves and to others conceptually. When we have the realization of the continuum, it's completely alone. We can only have it by ourselves at the moment that we are experiencing that. And then as we do that and have glimpses of that, the more it becomes a part of our nature, the more we recognize our true nature, the stronger it becomes. And that continuum just becomes this word that we use to talk about it. So we have to remember this language can get in the way of our freedom. It frees us to a point, but then it begins to hold us back. Can you see that? And this, Adrian, to your question, is very difficult to train in. It takes meditation after meditation after meditation after meditation to be able to apprehend this in a non-conceptual way. We bring it back as we come back into our ordinary operation, working as a human being and so on. We bring it back. But now we become, to use other words, we become lighter. We become simpler. We become more radiant. We begin to display, more and more of these characteristics that are on the lower levels of the Bhumis. And we talk less. We think less. We do less. We don't need to. We become the Buddha, we're becoming more and more the Buddha. So the image of the Buddha just sitting there, becomes more and more real to us. Maybe, the fool on the hill, to use another simile. Many people would point and say, oh, look at that fool on the hill. Look at Milarepa up there in the caves. Look at Jigdan Sumgun, who spent all that time in the cave. Many people would consider them to be fools. But At the same time, others who recognize what is happening realize that there is a transformation of crossing over. And all this is very difficult to train in. So it's the meditative concentration that is the vehicle that is taking you along this way. This is what you're doing.
So is that the transition into the subtle, the enjoyment, Sambhogakaya body? Can you call it that?
Yeah. You're flowing. All this is through. All this is through the Sambhogakaya. The Sambhogakaya. This is the subtle enjoyment body. Yes. So all of this is the display or is the activity of dealing with the Sambhogakaya. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. So this is what our meditation now is made of, is contemplating, what the bodhisattvas, what the great bodhisattvas represent, what the 5 Buddha families represent, and so on. So studying, understanding the 5 Buddha families, understanding the Sambhogakaya, understanding the peaceful deities, understanding the wrathful deities, and understanding the overcoming the emotions, the afflictive emotions, overcoming the mental misconceptions, and overcoming the habitual tendencies that we have. So these are the 3 purifications that we're going through. So yes. So this is why this is the work of the Vajrayana. The Mahayana doesn't deal with this. The Mahayana, alludes to it because it starts recognizing the Bodhisattva, the holy enlightened being. But it really doesn't go into this level of detail until you go into the Sambhogakaya parts of the Vajrayana, into the Tantrayana, the Vajrayana, the Mantrayana are all names for the same thing. And this is the wisdom of the Buddha. This is becoming the Buddha. Is that making some sense?
Yes, it does.
So it's very difficult to train in. It's very literal. So then the next one is obviously transcendent. It says that arises from the paramita of wisdom awareness, the paramita, the perfection of wisdom awareness. We are not at wisdom, but we're aware that all this possibility of wisdom is all around us. All this stuff is all around us. And we have the ability to be able to recognize it as phenomenal nature, which is the display of the absolute nature. So by the perfection of the wisdom awareness, bodhisattvas do not abide in either samsara or nirvana. So what that means is we're transcending dualistic nature. So they are obviously transcendent, beyond samsara and nirvana, attained through the 12 trainings, the accomplishment of the 6 paramitas, and then renouncing the 6 topics. Purification through the causes of the 3 jewels and their relation to the further examination of wisdom and methods. So here in this section here are the 12 trainings. So if you look in this outline that you have, you'll see this. So for me to just parrot all this to you, it's just going to go in one ear and out the other. You need to sit, for a couple of hours and different times and contemplate this, to read this and think about this, and allow yourself to have moments of transcendence. This will transport you. So these 12 trainings, the accomplishment of the 6 paramitas, and then renouncing the 6 topics. purification through the causes of the three jewels and their relation to further examination of wisdom and methods. So we're getting down, we're really getting down to every little word here, every little phrase here has huge meaning to it. So we each, at our own speed, need to be able to ponder this. So the realization here, in the obviously transcendent, is the meaning of the afflictive emotions and impurity, and understand well the interdependence of the non-existence of the afflicting emotions and their purification. So we're coming to this threshold of realizing that everything that we thought was true now doesn't become true anymore. All those afflicting of emotions that we were creating, that we were holding on to, that we had aversions of, now can just be cut off. And it's our decision, it's our choice to either stay with them or to cut them off, to become non-dual, to have non-dual thought. This is the realization. The meaning of the afflictive emotions and impurity is the same thing. And that to understand that the interdependence of non-existence of the afflicting emotions and their purification, it's our decision. It's our work that makes that manifest, that makes that happen. And this is obviously transcendent. When you get to this point, there's very few people that can talk to you. There's very few people that you want to talk to. You'll talk to them if they ask you, but you're not going to go around, butting into any conversations and so on. You're going to be free of that. Now you may say, that doesn't sound like fun. I don't want to do that. Okay, so, that's fine. And we can continue to learn and to do things, and, that's all fine. Maybe that's what we need to do. But this is pointing out to you what it means to do that. This is preparing ourselves, remember, to become a Buddha. This is preparing ourselves for the bardo of reality and preparing ourselves for the bardo of death. So every meditation is a death and a rebirth. So if we take it seriously and we really get involved in how to do that, you will begin to see that manifestation, how that works and so on, how we're preparing ourselves for that. And as we do that, we become more and more obviously transcendent. So then the next one now is gone afar, the seventh Bhumi. So gone afar, the name connotes what it means, just gone afar. That arises from the practice of the paramita of skillful means, related to the one-way path and its perfection of action, the one-way path. There's no path backwards. It's moving in one direction to enlightenment. This direct path to Buddhahood. One masters this Bhumi by renouncing the 20 subjects, such as grasping self-existence and so forth, and by practicing the 20 opposing topics, such as the 3 gates to liberation and so forth. And it says here, you see the jewel ornament of liberation for these references in the notes section. And there are some further notes here in this. No, you have to go to the book. It was too many to put in here. And if you haven't made the commitment to get the jewel ornament of liberation, then, then this doesn't mean anything to you anyway. So if you're really interested in understanding this, you need to invest in the jewel ornament of liberation book. So it says purification through the causes of the three jewels, the causes of the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The cause of the body, the cause of the speech, and the cause of the mind. We need this body to attain enlightenment. We need our intellect. We need our speech to attain enlightenment. We need the mind to attain enlightenment. These are the three jewels, and is more purified and cannot be matched by the root virtue of hearers or solitary realizers and other bodhisattvas at the lower levels. So this is beyond. You see, this is beyond the arhats and the solitary realizers, the Shravakas and the Pratyeka Buddhas. Here now we are in the Vajrayana, and we're in the Sambhogagaya, and we are really we are becoming the embodiment of these deities within ourselves. They are here, and we're beginning to realize what they are communicating to us, what this wisdom is coming up, seeing it as our wisdom as the guru. We are the guru. And the realization is the meaning of non-differentiation. Non-differentiation, it's all the same. Signs of the Dharma in sutras and so forth appear without differentiation. Everything is one taste. Duality is gone. Samsara and nirvana are gone. We may witness them, but we're not bound by them in any way.
Lance, I have a quick question about that.
All right.
In the iconography, the Buddhist iconography, what are some of the symbols for that non-differentiation, one taste?
Every one of the Buddhas, the 5 Buddha families. They are symbolic of non-differentiation. That's the whole thing about Yab Yum, is the transcendence of the dualistic nature. That's the bliss. That's the emptiness. That's the transcendence. That's the unimpededness. Seeing this manifest in each of those 5 Buddha families.
So some of that, some of the wrathful deities, they're standing on 2 corpses. Is that the same thing?
Well, the wrathful deities, or I prefer to use the name fierce deities, they are very strong compassion, are emanations of the peaceful deities. When pacification and enrichment didn't work, then it has to go to the fierce deities that have greater compassion, greater power to be able to help, to be able to subdue the non-virtue, the confusion, and so on.
Right.
So what they are symbolic of, what they are standing on, those bodies, what those represent, is all the stuff that came before that. All the Hinduism, all the lower level stuff is what they are standing on. They're rising above that. It's showing that they are above that. So it's just symbolic that they're standing on Indra and on Brahma, different variations of their names and so on. And that's what it shows, that they're standing on all that philosophy, all that religion that has come before. They're standing on that and becoming more evolved than that. That's what that means, generally speaking.
I was always under the impression that the male and female that they're standing on is the dualistic mind, that they overcame the dualistic
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's another way of saying it. Yes.
How about the skull? The skull filled with blood. Is that the same thing? The non-differentiation.
Yes. That represents enjoyment, unqualified enjoyment. Unqualified enjoyment, non-objectified enjoyment of the things that we would find repulsive. They are drinking and enjoying as if it's nectar.
And how about like the double-faced deities? Some of them have like the sow face, right? Is that the Dharmakaya, or is that again non-differentiation, one taste?
Well, in that case, in that particular instance, you're talking about Vajrayogini, who has the sow face in her hand and represents the Dharmakaya. Yes, represents the Dharmakaya nature that she is the embodiment of, but in a Sambhogagaya form, to be able to help us to be able to recognize that we are rising above that. And we're doing it through our unqualified enjoyment, drinking the blood from the kapala, from the skull cup, and holding the hook knife and cutting off the roots of our attachments. And that she's balancing the kadvanga on her shoulder, which is representing the three kayas, the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Nirmanakaya. So all these things are very important, and learning all these things is very powerful. Now, do we need to do it? You know, because some people would say, oh, you don't need to do all this stuff and everything. And I'm sure it's true for some people. But, you know, for a lot of us, me included, I needed all these little things to be able to help me to understand what all this means and so on.
Lance?
Yes, sir.
So this gone afar, I hear gone afar like the practitioner might be gone afar, like Gati, Paragati, Parasamgati, like really out there, really, really gone. And at the same time, all of the stuff that we're cutting loose from, all the obscurations and all the attachments and all of that stuff. So if there's non-duality, then the goneness is on both sides. I mean, not only is the practitioner gone, but all the crap is gone.
Yeah, so, but how stable is that?
Oh, I don't think that would be very stable at all.
Well, that's the thing. So all these images, all these things are tools for us to help us to stabilize it.
Yeah.
All these practices, all these, you know, different ritual objects, implements, and so on, all these different deities, the wrathful deities, the peaceful deities, and the objects they have, how many faces they have, are all ways in which we stabilize, you know, in that deity recollection. And slowly we begin not to need them, you know, and we become more and more and more simple, more and more like the Buddha itself. And that, again, is the trecho. That is the sogo. That is the passing over. So first we're cutting through all these things. We're realizing these things. We're bringing these things into our awareness to understand the symbology of them. But at the same time, we're cutting them off. We don't know, we're so ignorant, we don't know what it is that we're ignorant of. So we got to learn all this stuff, and then we can say, oh, I really don't need that.
So the subject and the object are gone, really gone.
What, say that again?
So the subject and the object are really gone.
Yeah, the subject and the object, absolutely. And this is stuff that Santideva goes into, all the, these very subtle, philosophical mind games that we were talking about earlier. It's better to play these mind games now than when you go into the bardo of death. Because then all of a sudden, all this stuff opens up. And if you don't know how to deal with it, then it just becomes overwhelming. And your whole bardo experience just becomes one of, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Let me be born again. I got to learn more about what all this stuff is that I didn't want to learn when I was there the first time, or the second time, or the 4,000th time, or whatever. I mean, this is high level stuff. This is the stuff of, we talk about, the physicists and so on, and the great philosophers, the religious philosophers who talk about this kind of stuff. Isn't that right?
So, Lance, is Trekchö a set of practices, or I'm trying to understand exactly what that is? And is TREKCHOD, is that correct?
Trekchö is it's TREKCHO.
CHO.
So, let me get it here. Yeah, Trekchö, TREKCHO. So I don't know exactly what Trekchö means, but I think it must mean cutting, because cho, THO, with an umlaut over the O, cho is Dharma. So it's cutting through the Dharma.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is Togyo, which is crossing over. So it's not, I might be wrong because I don't know everything. I don't know that it's a distinct practice, either one of these. I think it is a general term, two general terms that are used for what we are doing within this whole practice mind that we are going through. There's the rehearsal for this is our meditation. So this is all gone afar. The meaning of the non-differentiation, signs of the Dharma in our sutras and so forth appear without differentiation, one taste. So all that which is, all these myriad forms and all these dualities now all come together as being one. It's a concept. It's the 7th level. But there's 3 more levels to go yet. So the next one is immovable. And this arises from the practice of the paramita of aspirations. We have to want to do this. Cannot be moved by the perception of effort, with or without signs, beyond duality. So we're beyond being able to be persuaded in any way, shape, or form to deviate from our course of direction now. We're immovable. One masters the 8th bhumi by way of the following 8 trainings. And then it has the 8 trainings that are listed in the back here. further purification of the three causes of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So now we've gone through three different sets, I think, of purification of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So the realization that comes from this immovable level is the meaning of no decrease or increase. Four types of mastery: mastery over non-discursive thoughts, mastery over pure Buddha fields, mastery over primordial wisdom, mastery over karma. Of these four, the Bodhisattva who has attained the eighth Bhumi must realize the mastery over non-discursive thought and pure Buddha fields. And furthermore, the Bodhisattva who attains the eighth Bhumi level will attain the following 10 powers. So this is where I was confused a couple of weeks ago when I was saying, when we get to this point, this is when the afflictive emotions have been overcome. It's not when we come to the first Bhumi, it's when we come to the eighth Bhumi. So mastery over non-discursive thoughts. So what does that mean? Non-discursive thoughts. What are the discursive thoughts? The discursive thoughts are like examination thoughts. You're thinking about something, but you're looking about all the different permutations in which that something, has in your life that you see and so on. It's discursive instead of staying on the one thing. So in other words, if I'm trying to do one-pointed mindfulness and I'm going, Om Mani Padme Hum, I'm using my mantra, and instead of just concentrating on the sound of the mantra, reciting the mantra, I'm thinking about what each one of those different things means. Those are discursive thoughts. And how they can have importance at one level, but at another level, they're not necessary. So we have mastery of non-discursive thought, which is one-pointed mindfulness. Mastery over the pure Buddha fields. Now, the pure Buddha fields are at hand. We have been manifesting the Buddha fields because of our deity yoga practices in the Sambhogakaya. So we know what the Buddha field of Shen Raising is. We know what the Buddha field of Medicine Buddha is. We know what the Buddha field of Amitabha is, and all the other deities. So we have a mastery over that. It doesn't mean that we are lord of it, that we're manipulating and telling it what to do. It's not like that at all. It's just that we understand, not just through an intellectual process. The intellect is now understanding the heart process. These are heart thoughts, brain thoughts. Brain thoughts are discursive thoughts. Heart thoughts are pure thoughts. So mastery over primordial wisdom. Again, that we are open to it, that we are just like a conduit. We've just like opened up, the door, so to speak, and now all this primordial wisdom is just flowing out. It's been there the whole time. Our mastery is not having to control it. Our mastery is being the wisdom. And mastery over karma. So mastery over karma. I want to get it right. Although we abide in the perfect meaning of absolute thought or absolute truth, Because we abide in the perfect meaning of absolute truth, we do not understand the interdependence of cause and effect on the relative level. We abide in the perfect meaning, but we don't understand the interdependence of cause and effect. We are still ignorant about the true reality of phenomena. So let me understand, I supplicate Mother Tara, two truth omniscience. Please protect us. Two truth omniscience. Two truth knowingness. And understanding the two truths, not just intellectually, but from a gnosis, knowing it, experiencing it, being that. So then come, and attaining these levels, this particular, now we find we have these powers, these 10 powers of the Buddha, which are listed here: power over lifespan, likewise mind, necessary provisions, karma, birth, wishes, aspiration, prayers, miracles, wisdom, awareness, power over dharma. So we begin to have, what seem to be these miraculous powers that now it's just, that's everyday stuff now. It's what it is. It's what it is to be transcendent, to be above all the things that you have not been able to recognize. Now, all of a sudden, you recognize these things. You see these things. You understand these things.
So, Lance?
Yes, sir.
Now that I've found this like kryptonite, going back to under realization, it looks like the Bodhisattva who attains the 8th Bhumi doesn't yet have to realize mastery over primordial wisdom over karma.
Does or doesn't?
Does not. It states here, of these 4, the Bodhisattva who attain the 8 must realize the mastery of over non-discursive thought and pure Buddha fields. Does that mean that primordial wisdom and mastery over karma are higher level?
Let me see if I understand. So you're asking, it says here, the realization, the meaning of no decrease or increase, no increase or decrease. Now it's just spontaneous. You are the master of non-discursive thought. You are the master of pure Buddha field. You are the master of primordial wisdom. You are the master of karma. Is that what you're saying?
And what it says next is, of these 4, whoever
the Bodhisattva who attains the 8th Bhumi must realize the mastery over non-discursive thoughts and pure Buddha fields.
So that leaves 2 that are not yet mastered or don't have to be mastered. I mean, that seems like pretty.
I think it's because the primordial wisdom and the karma has been mastered to get to this point.
Oh.
And that's what I was saying a few minutes ago, where I got confused that when you leave the 7th Bhumi to get to the 8th Bhumi, those things have been satisfied. Karma has been satisfied, and afflictive emotion has been satisfied. So now we're dealing with the discursive thoughts and the pure Buddha fields at the 8th Bhumi level.
Okay.
That's my understanding. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I was just wrong thinking, because I think those 2 masteries over primordial wisdom and over karma, that's pretty high-end qualities there.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe those you could sort of carry with you while you still had the 10 powers. But
well, again, this is an outline, and you know, sometimes in an outline things can be oversimplified. You know, so and trying to make it as concise as possible, you know, that can happen. So this outline does not relieve us of the job of studying these chapters and,
yeah.
and having our own experiences with them. Okay. So now we move on to the 9th Bhumi level, which is good discriminating wisdom. So that arises from the practice of the paramita of strength. Perfect discriminating wisdom, knowledge of the Dharma meaning. One masters the 9th Bhumi through the following 12 trainings. So now we go on and we look at those 12 trainings. That arises from the practice of the paramita of strength, perfect discriminating wisdom, knowledge of the Dharma meaning, the meaning of the Dharma, not just the aspiration of the Dharma, but the meaning of the Dharma. So the 12, and so this is the 12 trainings of the 9th Bhumi. Let's look at that for a second. It says, perfecting infinite aspiration prayers for the benefit of sentient beings, understanding of language, of gods, and so forth. Mastery over the Dharma, meaning discriminating wisdom, inexhaustible confidence, like a flowing river. So it goes on with this, you know, and my parroting it doesn't mean anything to you or to me. It's the kind of thing that's got to be contemplated. You got to spend time quietly with this. And going back to this other thing, because this is so incredible. Here it says, wait a minute. If the meaning of Dharma is not born in one's heart, you don't know it here. If the meaning of Dharma is not born in one's heart, one just follows the words of conventional meaning. We are deceived by delusory philosophical views and dogmas. We get hooked. We think we know what we're doing. We're thinking with this, we're letting this guide us instead of letting this guide us, our heart thoughts. So let me supplicate Mother Tara of perfect wisdom. So let me develop perfect wisdom to protect us.
Hey, Lance.
Yes, sir.
So I'm looking here at the 12 trainings,
Yes.
and I don't know, it's kind of like a little bit discriminative.
You're looking at the 12 trainings of the 9th Bhumi?
In my dualistic mind, I'm
Does
like...
it say the 9th Bhumi or the 6th Bhumi?
The 9th Bhumi.
Okay.
So where you have that note there, you know, on page 40, the 12 trainings of the 9th Bhumi, and it starts with perfecting infinite aspiration prayers, so on and so forth. But then I'm looking at the number 5, like choosing an excellent family, like of a king and so forth. 6, choosing of an excellent caste, social position. I'm sorry, I'm just shaking my head a little bit to that. I'm like, if somebody would be to consider Trump like, you know, king of a country, I don't want to, I'm sorry, I'm going to a different rabbit hole here, but what is that about? I'm confused about that. What does it matter if I'm like with the king? I mean, there are like so many known kings in history that are, you know, cruel and dictators and all that. What is this about?
All right. Well, number one, we know more about the negative. We know more about the wars. We know more about the hate than we know of the good things that were done. Humankind has a way of repeating history because it knows it's always talking about the negatives. It's always talking about those negatives. Whenever there's something bad that is happening, there's something that's good that's happening. But why don't we talk about the stuff that's good happening? It's not as much fun as it is about the bad stuff that's happening. Oh, 12 million people were killed. Oh, that's really got my attention. 12 beings were liberated. What's that mean? I'm not interested in that. But 12 people that died, 12 million people that died, that's more interesting to me. So we have this predilection to be able to follow things like that. It's part of the human condition. We like to watch the train wreck. We don't want to watch the train just going 60 miles an hour down the tracks. It just goes in, you know, from one eye to the other. We don't think about it. But if the train goes off the tracks, we'll think about it the rest of our lives.
That's why soap operas exist.
Maybe so. So my point here, so what I'm trying to get to is in the four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. In the very beginning, when we talk about the precious human life, and we talk about the 8 leisures and the 10 endowments, we would rather be born with those 8 leisures and 10 endowments than not to be. If we had the choice to be born a pauper, living off the seeds of the land that are just in crumbs on the ground or something like that, or be a king, well, we'd certainly rather be a king, I think, long as we could be a virtuous king. If we couldn't be a virtuous king, it would be much more powerful to be the pauper living off the seeds of the land and being virtuous about it than the king who has everything and is a son of a gun to everybody else. So it's all relative. So if we can direct ourselves in our next life, if we have been directed to this life because of things that we have done in past lives, we're the beneficiary of it now. How did you get to where you are now? Are you in a good place now? When you consider yourself to be a rich person in terms of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Forget about the money. Would you rather have the bodhicitta, or would you rather have the money? But if you could have the money and have bodhicitta and help many other people to be in a position for that, well, more power to you. So having money, having position, being a king does not preclude you from being a virtuous person. And like we've been talking about in the Dharma Masters, that we've been talking about in Buddhism 101 for the past 3 weeks, we went through from the Shakyamuni Buddha to Lord Jigten Sumgön. We followed all these masters, and we saw that there was all different combinations of people where they came from and so on. But the one thread that they all had was bodhicitta.
Lance?
Yes, sir.
When they're talking about this, come in as a king, you know, most of the people that we see, like this saint with the dogs and cats,
Saint Francis.
Saint Francis. You know, these people were kind of by themselves, and a lot of the spiritual teachers and that were in caves and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily, and having money in that doesn't necessarily help your situation.
Well, that's right. That's what I was just saying.
Pardon?
That's what I was just saying.
Yeah.
But it doesn't preclude you from being a noble person.
No, it doesn't. But it's,
well, if you could have those kinds of benefits and be a virtuous person and influence many more people, that would be a good thing, wouldn't it?
Well, it seems to be a lot easier if you don't have a lot that you're willing to give and to work on some of this stuff here, you know.
You're too busy being the king.
Yeah.
Yes, that's sure. Yes.
You know, what was it? A couple of weeks ago in one of the classes, I said to everybody, I said, if I gave you $5 million, would you give up bodhicitta? And a couple of people said, and Adrian, I think, was one of them, who said, well, I would take the $5 million and use it to help a lot of people through bodhicitta. So isn't that the same as being a king? And using the power of the king to be able to be a benevolent person, to be a benevolent king?
Yeah.
So is the king just a descriptive word rather than just a necessarily
don't have to be literal. No, don't have to be literal.
Right.
And for every, you know, there's more stories about those who were born a noble life, you know, into an aristocratic life, who at some point renounced that.
Right.
And then purified themselves. And then maybe then they may have the money of a king, but they don't show it that way. I mean, you take some of these lamas, you take some of these Tibetans, I mean, they're sitting on lots of resources. You wouldn't know it, you know, but they're sitting on lots of resources and helping many, 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 many people, you know, in the process. But there was a time when they all renounced all their earthly possessions and so on. And then when they purified them, people started recognizing them and saying, oh, I want to support you. I want to help you. What can I do for you? Say, well, I need, you know, $5 million so I can build this library. They say, okay. You think I'm kidding, you know, but that's how a lot of these things get built. People go to these lamas and say, how can I help? You know, I've got a lot of resources. I can't do the practices, but maybe I can gain some merit by being generous with that which I do have, which is money. And they say, okay, I want to build a library, $5 million. And stupas and things like that. Who do you think pays for these things? It doesn't come from, you know, our, you know, little money that, you know, we might give $20 here and $100 there and someone like that. You know, it does all accumulate, but there are some big benefactors along the way too.
Is that the like the center that Drupal was talking about in where was it, Kentucky, or?
Yeah, there's a guy who donated, what was it, I don't know, 100 acres or something like that. And they're building the stupa. I mean, it costs, you know, many thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars to build those stupas.
That would be a nice thing to be able to do.
Yeah, sure. So you could criticize and say, well, maybe some people are buying their precious human life or something like that. Well, I wouldn't be that pejorative about it. I just see that they're being generous with what they got.
I see. So it's not necessarily the literal meaning. It's just kind of like what puts you in the path of Dharma to help others be on the path of Dharma. And some people might be the ones that have the money and participate in that way. Some people participate with their time and practice, with their gift of speech. So everybody got to kind of like bring something to the table, but not necessarily kind of like. So I just took just took it a little bit literal here.
Yeah. So another thing is to understand the Bardo Todal.
The world is complicated in Tibet. If they are to survive, I'm certainly some of that money takes care of the Chinese government too, to keep them.
Who's getting the money? I didn't.
I think that the Chinese government was I mean, it's just the way the world is. I think that they have to pay off certain people in the Chinese government to stay off their backs in Tibet.
I'm not going to get into that argument. I don't know.
No, it has to be true.
I don't know. I'm not that cynical kind of person to do that.
Of the Chinese government? Well, I am. I'm sorry.
Well,
not true.
I don't know. You know, maybe so, maybe not. But I understand the point. You know, there's lots of things that happen in our phenomenal nature that we have to be part of. You know, so how it's done, I don't know. So we were talking about this. We were about to talk about good discriminating wisdom, and then we got off on this other thing, which was important. So that's fine. But can you see, you know, by studying this, you begin to see the intricacies of it. And we are in control of this. This is the thing that we have to always recognize, that we are responsible for our happiness. We're responsible for our suffering. So if we're born rich, we have to deal with that. If we're born poor, we have to deal with that. You know, one, rich or poor is not a connotation of virtue. Okay, so back to good discriminating wisdom. So that which arises from the practice of the paramita of strength, perfect discriminating wisdom, knowledge of the Dharma meaning, one masters the ninth bhumi, and then it says the realization of the four types of mastery. Bodhisattvas of the ninth bhumi realize the nature of mastery over the primordial wisdom because they have attained the four types of discriminating awareness of Dharma, meaning, significance, and confidence, or courage. The courage to be able to deal with this. So good discriminating wisdom. So in the Sambhogaya, Amitabha Buddha, the wisdom of discriminating awareness, is key to this. And being able to recognize that this is why Amitabha is the first of the Buddhas the Buddha feel that is most accessible to us and the most fundamental to us, because it teaches us, it shows us that we have this discriminating wisdom within ourselves, and we have to learn how to use it. So here it's saying that we're using it in terms of the Dharma, we're using it in terms of meaning and significance, and in confidence or courage in the way that we do things in our lives and so on. And here we're talking about the 9th Bhumi level. So here it's very subtle. And by this time we will have done so much work already. And to get to this point now it's being able to recognize what it means to letting that go, or to continue work in that. So through these 12 trainings that Adrian was talking about, how are we going to do these things? The trainings in the Bardo, the trainings in making these spiritual selections. It's kind of like Darwin. What do they call it? What is it called? Selective, what do they call that? Selective evolution or something like that?
Natural selection.
Natural selection. So here's a practical natural selection to be a bodhisattva. So now comes number 10, is the cloud of Dharma. So this arises from the practice of the paramita of primordial wisdom. One who abides on the 10th Bhumi showers the rain of Dharma like a cloud and pacifies the dust of afflicting emotions of sentient beings. Doors of Dharma wisdom and absorption in Dharma compassion. So it's like these clouds that are, here it's being expressed that they're raining down compassion for other beings. And here comes this last afflictive emotion, or not afflictive emotion, excuse me, the affliction of wisdom obscuration, of becoming so connected that with that, I need to do that. And it can prevent us from being a Buddha, or we accept the responsibility of doing that and we recognize that. So it's an interesting question. Do you want to be a bodhisattva? Do you want to be a Buddha? Do you remain a bodhisattva because you want to help beings, but you also realize that you have some impurities to work on yourself? So you're using the two bodhicittas, relative bodhicitta and absolute bodhicitta, to help both, to help enlightenment and to help other beings suffering, and taking responsibility for that. So it's an interesting question. It's something I think that everybody has to answer for themselves. And there may not be an answer in this lifetime. So it says here, the Bhumi of empowerment, in the primordial wisdom of omniscience. The Bhumi, the level of empowerment in the primordial wisdom of omniscience. Omniscience means omniscience, knowing everything. Means the 10th Bhumi, all knowingness. But now this is at the gnosis level. The Buddhas of the 10 directions empower the bodhisattvas who abide on this 10th Bhumi with their radiating light. The training of the 10th Bhumi is explained in the Ten Noble Bhumi Sutra, which is here in this paper. So there's 10 Noble Bhumi Sutra. So the Buddhas are empowering. In other words, what that means is it's like the sun is shining its energy on these beings. And from this energy, we are then using that to be able to help other beings. If the Buddhas weren't there, if the sun wasn't there, we wouldn't have this energy. We wouldn't have this inspiration to be able to do these things, to be this. So where are the Buddhas? Are the Buddhas out there? The sun is out there. The Buddhas are here. This strength, this power comes from within ourselves. Some people have very small life force. Most of us do. We have to recognize that and accept that. Some others have a great life force and great ability to influence many more people. That life force can be virtuous or it can be non-virtuous. Some people have great power, and all they do is always trying to get over on people and make people suffer. If they could change things around, what great things they could have accomplished in their lives. But they chose to be selfish and to do things at others' expense. But then there are great beings who have great life force and are able to be an important virtuous factor in many people's lives and so on. So we know people of both of those levels. We ourselves are people of, modest means. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here right now. We'd be someplace else talking to, tens of thousands of people at a time right now. So we have to accept who we are and be thankful for that. So the point was that these Buddhas are within ourselves. And the more that we allow these to open up, the more that we remove those blockages, those obscurations of that Buddha nature, the more powerful we become. The more that we're able to, our heart thoughts become stronger in our lives and they radiate to all other beings. They become luminous and lighten the darkness for other people to see and so on. So this purifies the leftover obscurations. It realizes the 4 types of mastery. Bodhisattvas of the 10th Bhumi realize mastery over karma, by which one benefits sentient beings through various miracle powers at will. And their abilities, one has the ability to give teachings by manifesting in the form of Indra, Brahma, guardians, kings, hearers, solitary realizers, or Buddhas, depending on the trainees. So we take these different forms. The Buddhas can take all these different forms in order to help beings. So it's a miraculous power. It's beyond our ability to be able to vicariously understand it. But to know it through gnosis, to experience it, then it opens up. Then you see how it works. What's your sphere of influence? You might have, I'm going to guess, say maybe you got 50 people that, you could look at in the past few years that you have some influence with. Some people think of you as one kind of a person. The the job that you have or something like that. Somebody thinks of you in another way. Somebody thinks of you in another way. But they all think of you in terms of bodhicitta, if that's what you are radiating. They may think, oh, you're the carpenter who does this. Oh, you're the cop who does this. Oh, you're the soldier who does this. Oh, you're the politician that does this. Because you are different with those different 50 people in terms of the way they might see you on the outer periphery. But inside, they all see the same thing, which is your bodhicitta. And this is a manifestation of miraculous power. And if you're doing that and you realize that, then you see, then you've got that gnosis. So these 10 Bodhisattva Bhumis altogether is the path that leads to Buddhahood. So this Buddhahood, we all have it within us. You know, how stable can we be Buddha? How stable can we be a Bodhisattva? How stable can we be a yogi, a practitioner? All those things. It's a progression. And we have to be thankful for whatever stage we are stable in, and thankful for the knowledge of what it is, the work that we need to do to move to the next level, to the next step, to the next stage. It says that Buddhahood is the Bhumi called the path of perfection, sometimes called the 11th Bhumi. All the obscurations of afflictive emotions, which are subject to purification on the path of meditation, and the imputed assigned value obscuration of knowledge, which are like sap, nutrients of a tree, are fully purified at one time when the Vajra-like absorption is generated. So what that's saying is moving from the 10th Bhumi to the 11th Bhumi, from being a Buddha. And it's a process. Bodhisattva Bhumis. After this is chapter 20, the perfect Buddhahood. And then after that is chapter 21, the activities of the Buddha. So what we've been learning to do is how to go to the store, go pick out a bicycle. They bring out a box, a flat box that's nowhere near the size of the bicycle, and says, okay, now you got to put it together. So the bicycle is your vehicle to Buddhahood. And you take it home, you open up the box, you get all the parts out and so on, and you say, oh, I don't need the instruction manual. I can do this on my own. I'm a mechanic. So you start putting it together and you find out that you got 10 parts left over, and the handlebars kind of swivel and the seat kind of doesn't stay stable and so on. And the chain is too loose. It keeps coming off of the sprockets and all this. And then you say, oh my, I made a mistake. Maybe I better look at the manual. And then you start reading all the stuff and everything. So the Jewel Ornament of Liberation is that manual about how to put your bicycle together, how to put yourself on the path to become a Buddha, how to build that Buddha field. But then, once you've built the bicycle, now it's teaching you how to ride the bicycle. So that's what the next couple chapters are about. That's a good analogy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's telling us what tools we need too. That's usually
right.
usually like page 2 or 3 of the manual is you got to have this before you even open the box, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how many of us read those manuals, you know, until we get stuck somewhere?
And this is this is one of the things that I appreciate about this teachings is that, you know, most of the time, at least, you know, from my experience, all the circles that I've been in, or, you know, all the people that are trying to claim that they have the path to happiness and, you know, the follow me type of guys and gurus, you know, I think they kind of like tend to levitate around the first four bhumis, 1, 2, 3, and 4, you know, how to get great joy, how to be radiant, how to be luminous, and all that. But I know there's more to that, and I don't think I've ever like heard instructions, teachings, and what to use and how to use it from anywhere else other than just from this teachings, at least for me. Or if I've heard it, it was just kind of like bits and pieces that you kind of like have to put together in your own, and a lot of times it's like confusing, and it's like if you're lucky, yeah, you know, you get a glimpse of that, but then we all know that you have to stabilize it in order to move further. So yeah, to me, it's kind of like looking at this, it's a long way to go, but at least you see the path. You're on the path and you see it and you know what to do.
Well put. Thank you. Yeah, it shows your humility. And that's, you know, a most important ingredient. You know, and the first thing that we talk about in Buddhism is to get rid of our egos, selflessness. And as we get on the path, we have a tendency to forget that. We start thinking, oh, I'm a practitioner. Oh, I've accomplished this. Oh, I got these books I've read. Oh, I talked to these people. Oh, you know. So yeah, so to remain humble through all this is a very important part. And remember, the Buddha Shakyamuni never considered himself to be divine. He never talked in those terms. And what he expressed was just his experience. Take it for what it's worth. All right, well, very good. Well, thank you very much. Anybody else have any comments, questions? I hope you take up the offer, the invitation to read this, you know. Some point, you know, whether it's now or it's next week or next year or next lifetime.
Lance, I'm seeing several versions of this book listed online. What is the one that you're using?
My copy is downstairs. It's the one by Khenpo Kunchuk Gyaltsen. There it is. Michael is showing it to you. Yeah, a little bit lower, Michael. Ornament of Liberation by Khenpo Kunchuk Gyaltsen. When he wrote it, when he did the book, he was a Khenpo. Now he is a Kenshin.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, that is the one to get.
Okay.
And I said, several other times that there is, all of the teachings are on YouTube, 75 hours, page by page, line by line, word by word by Kenshin, if you want to follow it. Okay. So in Buddhism 101, we're January, we're going to start learning Buddhism, the book Learning Buddhism. And we're going to start at the beginning, that book, Learning Buddhism, is like a conversational commentary on the Jewel Ornament of Liberation. So we're going to start with that. We'll go through that, and then we'll get back to the Jewel Ornament of Liberation a little bit seriously next year or something. Here in Buddhism 102, which is what this has been, we're going to finish this. If anybody has a suggestion what you would like to do, otherwise I will think about it and talk with Kempo and plan a continuing teaching. Okay. Okay, you have any comments? What do you think?
I'm just taking it all in.
Okay. Does it make sense to you? Have you, have you been able to follow it? What do you think?
Yeah, I coming from a little bit of a slightly different background, more of like Hindu, following some Hindu traditions, I guess you would say. So just comparing kind of that process with the process here that you're like, that's more detailed in the Jewel of Ornamental Liberation that you're talking about and reviewing in this course. So I'm trying to I'm at the point now where I'm like connecting dots of, oh, that's what that is, and making kind of from the knowledge that I have or the exposure I have to these concepts in a kind of different language, different way, tying them together with what unfolding it through Buddhism. So yeah.
What do you think of the comment I made when I said, when we were talking about some of the deities that are standing on the Hindu deities?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I absolutely can see that. Yeah, I haven't gone too deep into like the deities like meaning and things like that, but I understand like that it's like the I don't know if this is an offensive term, like the upgrade or the evolution or the yeah, I hope that doesn't sound rude, but
no, that's fine.
Yeah, so yeah,
well, it's like in Western traditions, there was Judaism and Islam, Muslim, mm-hmm. and then out of that came Christianity. Mm-hmm. Came out of the Hebrew, came out of the Jewish, and so on. In the East, the Hinduism was there, and then the Buddhism came out of that in the same mm-hmm. way. So it like stands on the shoulders. There's a picture of one of our deities, Vajrayogini, and she's actually standing on a Jewish star, a 6-pointed star, mm-hmm. 12-pointed star. Which is interesting because it represents, phenomenal nature as we see it and so on. But she is standing on that. From that, she rises up. So it's a powerful illustration.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all very much. We'll do our dedications. If anybody has anything else you want to talk about, next week we're going to take 2 weeks off. So we'll come back. I'll send everybody a message. We'll come back in the new year. So I suppose it'll be the, let me take a look at the calendar here. We'll come back on the 9th. On January 9th is when we'll continue this conversation about the jewel ornament of liberation. So I hope everybody has a nice holiday. Be safe. If you can get your vaccine, please do that. It'd be wonderful. In the meantime, wear your mask and stay safe. Okay, so let's do our dedication. For tonight, we're going to do we'll start on page 18. So you have your prayer book. There's a couple places where I'm going to recite the Tibetan, because I would like everybody to be familiar with it, because the melodies sometimes really connote the power, the gravity, of some of these prayers. So you'll see what I mean when we get to these couple places. So we start on page 18, the dedication prayers of the lineage dedication prayer. Dorje Chang, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dormalorgampopa, Pagmadrupa, and Lordri Kompa. Please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kaju Lamas. By this virtue, may I achieve the all-knowing state, and may all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. Shangshu Samcho Grimposhe Ma Ke Panam Ke Gorchi Ke Panam Pa Me Payang Gone Gondu Pelwasho. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri, the warrior, realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in your path and fully dedicate all merit for all sentient beings. By the blessing of the Buddha who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. And they Karma prayer. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Trikompa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Dak dang kor de tam shegi du sam tu sa pa dang yo pe ge we sa wa di dag dan sem chen tam she nor du la na me pa yang dag par zog pe jang ju brin po she to par jor chi. Sheja Konje Kongen Soki Je Tendrel Ne La Wang Drup Tri Kompa Rinsen Pagi Ten Pa Si Te Bon She drew to some compes in your chi. glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yogins, Yoginis, and Dakinis, dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all beings in may the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana and the innate word of virtue not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Shravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mothers sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Mars and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. May the power, by the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, and arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that, may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om, Ah, Hong. Om, Ah, Hong. Om, Ah, Hong. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones. Thank you all very much. Thank you. It's been an honor to me to spend this year with you all, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, teacher.
Have a safe holiday.
Yeah.
Yes.
See you on the other side.
Love you all. See you soon. I'll miss you.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Bye,
Yes.
everyone.
Yeah, it's going to be a different period of time without all these wonderful gatherings.
Well, maybe Kempo will still have some gatherings and Drupan. And if there's something you really want to do, let me know and we'll make it happen.
Are those going to continue over the holidays? Do you know, Lance? Kempo and Drupan?
I haven't heard otherwise. So, okay. And theirs falls on Saturday and Sunday, so it may not, because the holidays are really on Thursday night and Friday, or is it? And Fridays are the holidays.
Okay.
So Saturday and Sunday, they may feel, well, it's no problem. Okay. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, see what he says tomorrow.
Okay.
All righty. Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Happy holidays.